How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Star Wars Battlefront 2 video. Now, in the last tips and tricks video I did, you guys absolutely destroyed the like button. It got a lot of feedback, it got in the algorithm, and I've gained quite a few subscribers just from that video alone, and you guys spoke with the like button, so here I am making a part 2. Just like before, if you guys enjoy these tips and tricks videos, be sure to give them a thumb up, and that lets me know that you guys want to see me do more tips and tricks. So if you guys are just seeing this one and you missed out on part 1, be sure to check it out at the end of the video. But without further ado, let's just get right into the tips. So let's talk about Saber Heroes for a little bit. The most important thing when it comes to Saber Heroes is the blocking and the dodging. I can't emphasize enough how important blocking and dodging is. Now, a lot of new players may not realize this, but when you dodge, you have a little bit of immunity. So if you time your dodge perfectly, you won't be affected by other heroes' abilities. For example, if Luke tries to force push you and you time it correctly, you will be unaffected by his force push. If Count Dooku tries to use his lightning stun and you dodge at the perfect time, you will be unaffected by his lightning stun. And the same goes for blocking. Blocking will negate the effects of pretty much any ability with the exception of a few, like Anakin's Passionate Strike can't be blocked, and Dooku's Exposed Weakness, and the mind tricks from Rey and Obi-Wan can't be blocked either. But as long as you are blocking, you can block blaster bolts, you can block saber attacks, and you can block most force powers. For example, you can block force pushes, you can block pulls, you can block dashes, you can block most things in this game. So maybe practice in arcade, practice in instant action if you have to, but I'd say the best mode to try this stuff out is either Heroes vs. Villains or Hero Showdown, where you have those one-on-one encounters. You can really perfect your skills with the dodges and the blocks. This is why when you come across those veteran players or those max level hero players, they've just mastered the ability to dodge and block. And then since we are on the subject of blocking, be sure to hold in the block button as you attack. A lot of people have the mindset of block when you're supposed to block and to attack whenever you see an opening to attack. Well, this game is designed kind of weirdly. The saber combat is just really bad. It rewards people that just spam the attack button, and you can actually hold in the block button and attack at the same time. So whenever you stop attacking, you just instantly go back to blocking. It took me a long time to get over the habit of blocking only when I think I'm supposed to block and then letting go of the trigger and then pushing the attack button. That puts you at a huge disadvantage versus somebody that has mastered their Luke or mastered their Anakin. This is why Anakin seems like he's kind of immune to everything, is because there's a bit of a delay in his animation. Veteran Anakin players like to hold in the block button as they attack, so all your abilities on your screen look like they're working, but in reality they're actually blocking the entire time. And then as you are holding in the block button, you can also use your force powers too. So as you are blocking and you're defending yourself against all these force powers and abilities and stuff, you can also use your force powers as an attack at the same time. So you can essentially defend yourself and attack simultaneously. And then since we are still talking about Saber Heroes, let's talk about their jump. Now, the regular jump height and distance is, fairly good, but if you swing your lightsaber as you're in mid-air, it actually gives you a little bit of extra momentum. Like in this gameplay with Obi-Wan, you can see how I'm jumping from the same exact spot multiple times. Well, I'm jumping just by pressing the jump button, and then I'm even getting a running start and pressing the jump button. But it's not until I jump and swing that I get that extra momentum to make it up to the next platform. This lets you jump higher in the air, and it lets you go a little bit further. A lot of people have the mindset of swinging while you're in the air is just an attack move, and to be honest, that's just very situational. You're very rarely going to hit somebody in the air while swinging. You want to mainly use this move just to get that little bit of extra momentum while you're in the air. It really does make a big difference. And then this applies to Luke. If you guys like Luke Skywalker, Luke's force push actually gives him a lot of momentum while he's jumping. Now you can still use the previous tip of swinging. It still works the same with Luke, just like every other lightsaber hero. But Luke has the exception of while you're in the air, if you use his force push, it gives you even more momentum than swinging your lightsaber. Luke can almost double the height of his jump by using force push. It increases his vertical jump and it drastically increases the distance that you can go. When I run around with Luke, I use this all the time. Like when I'm on indoor, I use this to get up into the trees. When I'm playing Heroes vs. Villains on Naboo, I use this to get up to the next level. This is a really handy thing to do for you guys that love to play as Luke Skywalker. And then next up is choosing the right hero for the right situation. What I like to do is when I'm on a big open map like Kashyyyk, for example, I don't necessarily like to go with saber heroes. When I'm on Kashyyyk, I want to go with someone that's got a little bit more range, so I'll go with a blaster hero. I'm more likely to choose Boba Fett on Kashyyyk because that's where he shines. Like, he has this big open environment, he can use his jetpack to his full capabilities, versus something like the Death Star. Boba Fett wouldn't be a good choice. With something like the Death Star, I like to go with Grievous because he's good in tight quarters, or Chewbacca. Chewbacca's time to shine is on the Death Star. Like, I've had some of my best Chewbacca streaks on the Death Star. And this applies to every hero. Like, I wouldn't pick Chewbacca on Kashyyyk, even though it's his home planet. And I wouldn't pick Chewbacca on a map like Naboo either, because Chewbacca is such a close-ranged hero. He's just not good on wide-open maps. Now, for the most part, saber heroes are so fast with their sprint speed, they're kind of good on almost any map. But once you learn their abilities, you can kind of get an idea of which ones to use in which situations. Another example is on Geonosis. I almost never pick saber heroes because the map is so wide open, and then towards the second and third phase, the enemies are so far back into their spawn that you physically can't reach them because you just have a lightsaber. So on a map like Geonosis, I'll pick somebody like Han or Leia or Lando or Finn or any of those blaster heroes. And then the next small tip is to constantly look at your radar. That may sound pretty simple, but a lot of people don't realize that the heroes show up as little red circles. So anytime there is a hero nearby, you can see them on your map. They're constantly there. Some of them have the exception to hide from radar. For example, Boba Fett can hide from radar when his ability is active. Rey can use her insight ability and she can hide from radar temporarily. But for the most part, heroes are always constantly active on radar. Now, I kind of wish that they'd take that away. That's just my personal preference. I don't like that the heroes are showing up on radar, but this is a good tip to know. And whenever you see that little dot approaching you, you know that you need to get out of there. And then the next tip is to take out vehicles to get extra battle points. On maps like Kashyyyk, I love to take out the air vehicles. The ground vehicles, that doesn't give you as many. For example, if you blow up a tank like a TX-130 or an AT-ST or something, you're not going to get as many battle points versus like one of the air vehicles. If you can take out a Y-Wing or an X-Wing on Hoth or any TIE fighters, you just get way more battle points. And this is how I get the hero right away on maps like Kashyyyk or Naboo, is I'll just look straight up into the sky, I'll equip some sort of ion attachment to one of my weapons, which lets you do more damage against vehicles, and I'll just keep picking them out of the sky because they're cheap, so people use their battle points on them. You're going to constantly see people in the sky, and this is just a great way to get easy battle points. And then the next tip is pretty simple. Just crouch whenever you see a vehicle such as a tank or a speeder. Any vehicle that hovers, you can crouch and they will go right over you and you won't get ran over. This obviously does not apply for things like AT-STs or giant vehicles like the AT-AT or something. And then next up is a camera angle thing. You have the option of choosing first person mode or third person in this game. First person is definitely the more immersive experience. I love playing in first person just because of how cool it looks. It looks very realistic. It's like a completely different experience from third person. But if you play in first person, you're just at a huge disadvantage. When you're in third person, you can peek around corners, you know where the enemy's at, versus in first person, you have no idea where the enemy is unless you expose yourself. So I'm willing to bet that at least 90% of the player base plays this game in third person just because everybody wants to be competitive, everybody wants to win, and I mean, first person just isn't the best option to go with. And then you can change your point of view by holding in down on the D-pad. It changes from first to third, and then while you're in third person, if you just tap on it once, you can change which shoulder you want to look over, left or right. This will help you peek around corners a little bit better, but for the most part, you want to keep the shoulder over the right side because that is the same side that your blaster is on. If your shoulder is over the left side, then you're at a little bit of a disadvantage because of the angle. So anytime you're looking to the right side of the shoulder, you're on the same angle as your blaster, which makes it easier to shoot around corners. And then next up is to play with your sensitivity options. A lot of people just play with the default and they don't realize that it makes a big difference to change your sensitivity. I personally play on 100%, and I do not recommend if you're a new player that you just bump it up to 100. What I did was I just gradually over time would raise it by 5%. Every like 3 or 4 matches, I would go up another 5%, another 5%, and you don't really notice it in 5% increments. And then when you get up to 100, you're just adapted to it. You got used to it. Now, I like to play on 100% because I can turn around instantly. The default for me just feels so slow. If someone's shooting me in the back, attack, I can instantly just turn around and defend myself, versus the default, it takes like an extra 1 to 2 seconds to turn around, and by then you're already dead. Yeah, so just play around with your sensitivity options. It makes a big difference. And then the last thing on this list also has to do with your settings, and that's that you can change the color of your heads-up display. There are a number of different colorblind options, and if you are not colorblind, you probably don't think to do this because you obviously can see colors. But depending on which setting you choose, it can make everything stand out more. On very bright maps like Hoth or Crate, sometimes it's hard to see things. Same with your crosshairs. You can change the color of your crosshairs. The default color is white, so sometimes it's a little difficult to see what you're aiming at on maps like Hoth or Crate. So I go with green because green stands out on pretty much every single map. So if you guys would like things to stand out a little bit more and make it a little bit easier to see things, I highly recommend that as well. But that is going to do it for all the tips and tricks in this video, guys. Like I said earlier, if you guys enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. It lets me know that you guys like these videos and you want to see more of them in the future. And then post your guys' tips down in the comments to help each other out. And then if you guys have really good tips, they might make it into the next video. But that is going to do it for me, guys. Be sure to follow me on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all at SwanyPlaysGames. And then be sure to join the channel's Discord where you guys can hang out with each other, talk to other subscribers, and just be part of the community. All the links are found in the description down below. And I will talk to you all in the next video.
We would be honored if you would join us. You cannot resist